Welcome to this application information session on the Level Up XR program. We are anticipating both some of the CDMO partners and XR partners to be attending this. So keep that in mind when some of the information might seem a little bit elementary to you. It may not be to your paired partners that you'd be working with. Just a quick start. Want to introduce ourselves to you, the loading panel. Okay, now I can see all of my screen. Just a few of the BTI Vanguard team that will be supporting the Level Up XR program. First, we have Brian Benson. He's our Senior VP at BTI Vanguard. Myself, I'll be the XR program manager, helping see this through. Council Mintz is the contracts and grants manager, and then Manbir Singh is our BARDA colleague who's the project manager for all of the BARDA Accelerator Network programs. I think I saw Brian join. I know Council you're
Yeah.
on. Would any of you like to say a quick word kind of on the
Yeah.
front here?
Yeah. Thanks, David. I think, we're excited to really launch this new initiative and excited to see kind of the results. There's a lot of validation in the medical field on implementing these processes to improve proficiency and accelerate development for professionals in the medical field. I think this is obviously for us a clear opportunity, but this is going to be the chance for us to develop the data needed to validate and substantiate this across the board. So again, we're really excited to work with BARDA on this, and hopefully excited to work with you all to make this a reality. I know you're doing this every day. You live this, many of you. And so this is hopefully a way for us to substantiate all your efforts and further advance this space. So, but with that, I'll turn it back over to David to give more about the opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Council, anything on your end before we get
I think you
back into the
covered
slide?
most of it. Contracts and grants manager, and I've been supporting kind of the Vanguard program as a whole, which you'll hear me talk about a little bit more in a few minutes. And I do recognize a couple names that are in attendance. So I'd like to say hi again to those of you I've spoken to before and kind of excited to see all your applications and things.
Okay, great. And we'll continue on here. So just for a overview of what we're going to cover today, the program itself, a little bit about BTI Vanguard, uh, the Level Up XR program, of course. Then who should apply, kind of the targets for the CDMOs and XR companies, what the application timeline looks like, how you can go through the application and make that submission, and then we'll just summarize and have an opportunity for Q&A. All right, so to start off with the overview of the program, I think Council, you were going to speak to this.
Yeah, so kind of wanted to give you all a little bit of background about kind of how we are where we are right now. And so just wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about BioTools Innovator. It is an accelerator and specifically dedicated to biotools, and it was founded in 2021. Last year, we launched BTI Vanguard, and BTI Vanguard has three programs. So we have the Accelerator Program, an annual non-dilutive funding program, and then now the Level Up XR program. Each of them provides different kinds of support to various startups and companies. And next slide. Thanks. So, as some of you may know, BTI Vanguard operates in partnership with the US government agency called BARDA. BARDA does play a central role in strengthening the nation's preparedness and response capabilities by advancing vaccines, drugs, diagnostics, and other critical tools for public health emergencies. This slide highlights BARDA's 5 key program areas, just so that you all are kind of aware as to where you fit in with all of this. And next slide.
Okay, so the BARDA Accelerator Network. So BARDA supports innovation through public-private partnerships, cutting-edge expertise, and targeted funding. And to help advance this mission, BARDA has created the BARDA Accelerator Network, also known as BAN. BAN brings together 5 hubs, each of them focused on a different priority area, and the goal is to strengthen the health security innovation ecosystem and to help the nation prepare for unpredictable and dynamic threats. So as you can see on the slide, of the 5, BTI Vanguard is one of those 5 hubs. Each hub provides accelerator support, development and evaluation services, and rapid response capabilities if a public health emergency were to occur. And today's webinar is going to focus on one of our hub's non-dilutive funding opportunities, which is designed to support the development, evaluation, and validation of XR technologies for biopharmaceutical manufacturing technician onboarding. And next slide. So very big picture, what is XR? David's going to go into a lot more detail about it, but just to kind of get us all oriented to what we're going to be talking about today. Level Up XR aims to assess how extended reality training platforms can enhance technician onboarding in biopharmaceutical manufacturing. The program is going to pair CDMOs with XR companies to run a roughly 12-month pilot study that will compare XR-based training with traditional training methods. And each pair will be eligible to receive up to $300,000 in milestone-based funding to support the design, implementation, and evaluation of this project or pilot, however you want to call it. And the program's goal is to generate real-world evidence on the effectiveness, feasibility, and overall impact of XR technologies in GMP-aligned environments. As I said, David's going to go into a lot more detail about it, but that's just kind of big picture. And so now I'm going to pass it off to him to kind of go into the more specifics about the program and the preliminary proposal.
All right, thank you for that, Council. So to begin with, on the application, who should be applying? We've already discussed that this is a CDMO and XR collaboration where they'll be paired and partnered for the pilot studies. But as far as the CDMOs go, we're looking for domestic biopharmaceutical manufacturers. That is one of the criteria that we have, is that you have a US-based production site. You'll need to be both onboarding and training new technicians throughout the pilot period, and that will give us that real-world data and opportunity to do the validation of these training technologies, where you can then compare kind of the onboarding of these technicians to either historic data and benchmarks that you have from the past, or if you have sufficient hiring, you could have a control arm that uses more of your conventional and established non-XR type training programs. The one of the things as we're doing the evaluation and looking at the data, it will be key that you've already had some type of structured training programs, you know, to abide by the GMP practices. You most likely already have all of this criteria checked. But preferably if you have kind of a good maintenance and visibility of what's been done in the past so that we can use that looking forward in comparison with the XR training technologies, that would be ideal. Of course, you'll be collaborating with an XR company, so you will need to be willing to work alongside them and kind of troubleshoot and implement their technologies to make this a success. And of course, we want everyone to kind of learn and grow throughout this process. So hopefully you have an interest in evaluating kind of what those outcomes will be in relation to your previous training processes. So that's what we're looking for from the CDMO partners. From the XR companies, we ask that you already have some type of deployable technology solution. Extended reality is sort of an umbrella term, as you know, whether it be virtual reality, augmented, or mixed reality type solutions, or kind of a combination thereof. These solutions should be ready to go for some type of, in the biopharmaceutical space, it is a highly regulated manufacturing environment. So if you're already operating or providing services in those areas, that will definitely be an advantage. We want to be able to fit the needs of the CDMO, what those technician training programs look like. So if you're able to incorporate any of their training and performance criteria that the CDMO would offer you kind of early on and to get that program up and running, that would be most ideal. The kind of, with your services, hopefully you're approaching this level up XR opportunity, confident that you will drive change and impact the CDMO's training outcomes. We will want to look at how your technologies can build off of the workflows that those biopharmaceutical manufacturers have in their spaces. That'll really help to give their technicians the best experiences in those simulations, in those trainings, and be most helpful to the CDMO partners. So kind of what is your capability to adapt and incorporate what the CDMO is telling you is important for training? So during this preliminary phase, one of the main questions we're getting is, do we need to have a partner? What if we already have one? How does this, affect the application? So if you are already partnered or working with if you're an XR, if you're working with CDMO already or vice versa, you may be ahead of the game. But I just want to point out that we still need both companies to submit a preliminary application. And then the reason for that is so that we can gather the appropriate details kind of from both parties. If you're a solo company right now, that's great. That's right where we imagine you to be right now. So please, go forward, submit your application, kind of give us what your technology or what your needs are, and then we'll be able to help in the next stage of pairing you all together. So speaking of stages, just so you all have an expectation of what the timelines are and how this will move forward into the actual pilot studies, I'm just going to break it down here with an overview. We're currently in this first box, the preliminary proposal stage. This is meant to be more of a high level summary of what a project might look like, what your goals would be, estimates on the budget. It's not meant to be extremely rigorous, hopefully 1 to 3 hours tops to be able to submit these. And during this stage, it is an individual company application. So both the XR and CDMO companies, as explained earlier, will need to apply. This is, of the different phases, sort of the only broad and fully open one. So anyone can apply at this stage. Whereas all the downstream ones, there will be some kind of coordination or invitation extended for you to continue your application into that next part of the proposal windows. So moving on.
I was going to say, David, to elaborate as well and to give a little bit more context. Just so you're all aware, again, the pairing part, for those that are one or the other CDMO or an XR developer, we really are excited to help facilitate this process. So it's not a disadvantage. We will facilitate matching based on our evaluation and curation process to help kind of pair those together as we go through the process. As David mentioned, in the initial application phase, estimates are welcome. It's not a finite budget in this initial application process. Really, it's assessing capability in interest and ideally opportunity to execute at a high level for overall impact. And that's really what we're trying to assess, the best suited partners with a clear defined scope. And again, if you don't have all the sides, we get it. And so we'll help facilitate that. But as long as you try to put your best foot forward, we'll help facilitate the next parts. If you already have, as David mentioned, a partner, You can still elaborate on that in the application, articulate that as best you can. Again, the estimated budget is still the estimated budget. It is not a final budget. We don't expect to hold all of the applicants to those, especially for those that don't know the exact implementation parameters or costs thereof, because that could evolve as we get into the later phases of the application process. So again, just give us the context so we're aware of it, and obviously have the other collaborator or your partner submit an application so we have additional insight on their capabilities. But do feel free to include a reference to them so we are aware that you already have an established engagement. And even if you don't and you have a preference for an XR or a CDMO partner that you would like to work with or have worked with in the past, maybe didn't get a chance to get them involved in time to submit the application, do let us know. We will definitely take that into consideration, and it will help facilitate the pairing and matching process. Sorry, David. I'll turn it back to you.
No, no worries. Thank you, Brian, for the extra detail there. One thing I didn't mention at the beginning, if there are any questions or additions to the conversation as I'm going through, please feel free to raise your hand. I can't really see when those pop up, but I think council or maybe someone else from the BTI team, Heather or Brian, you'd be able to call those out if there's questions along the way. Any written questions, feel free to put things into the chat and we can kind of address those when we get to the end of the slide deck also. But yeah, if anyone needs to speak up or ask a question, feel free to raise a hand. So, all right. Well, yeah, Brian, again, thank you for elaborating on kind of where we are and what we're expecting in the preliminary proposal phase. We will then look at all of those details and help facilitate pairing if you are not paired or don't have an idea of who your partner may be. At that point, we'll ask for a full proposal from those paired companies. There is sort of a refinement process at the end, and that's where we'll get closer to that final budget and whether the awardees would be selected and funded to move forward with their pilot projects. Just to help visualize what this timeline looks like heading into the new year and the next few months. Right now through December 19th, we're doing the submissions for the preliminary proposals. That'll give us, our team, kind of over the holiday and into January to review those and to help set up and establish those pairs. Come February is when we'll be asking for the pairs to work on their full proposals and getting those submitted. Into the spring is kind of when we'll be evaluating, doing any type of refinement to the full proposals. And then ultimately we want to be selecting and doing the awards kind of in April, so that projects can get started right around the May timeframe of next year. And we are looking at sort of a 12-month pilot period. They may vary, plus or minus a month, depending on kind of what your proposals are and what time you would need. So it'll go through to June of 2027, thereabout. All right. As far as how we can get to the application and then submit those, you'll do that through the Innovator portal. There's the link on this screen, and there'll be a QR code on one of the future slides as well. But you can get to this from the BTI Vanguard page, which then links to the Level Up XR page. And some of the emails and information that have been sent out so far have the links to both the application portal and the Level Up XR page. You should see on the left-hand side of the screen sort of a sign into your account. So you'll need to make an account to get in and be able to revisit or modify your applications as needed before you do end up submitting. When you sign in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a application link. So if you don't click on this direct URL on this slide, you'll need to navigate to the application part of it. And you'll see kind of right in the middle of the screen, that's displayed on the middle of this slide, the BioTools Innovator Vanguard Level Up XR. So that's the one you'll want to click on and apply to. There are a number of other MTI or BTI type applications potentially shown to you there. So just make sure you're selecting the Level Up XR program. Again, the application deadline is for the preliminary phase. This is December 19th, going up until about midnight there, Pacific time. Brian hinted at some of what you'll see in that application kind of portal, what you'll be asked for. But just for an overview, we're really trying to collect, what it is about your company, the details, leadership, background. For a lot of the XR companies, you may be more in kind of a starting up or scaling, expanding growth phase of your operations. So, that's something that we'll ask about is sort of where you are in that, especially if you were to come back kind of to future BTI type programs. For CDMOs, we're really trying to understand what your operational needs are, how this program will fit and or support your training programs. And then that way we can kind of help match and make sure that the XR companies will be able to address those needs, and kind of vice versa. So, and then where a lot of the meat of this is in the proposal abstract, but these are not really high word, like you shouldn't be submitting a thesis at this stage. It's sort of a abstract and a high level summary of what you think your problem statements are, what the solution may be. And then we would like to hear kind of what your thoughts are on the implications for success. Like what impacts might this make on moving the needle moving forward? There is an option. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say again, the idea for this again is as much clarity as you can provide, is again going to help our evaluation process to better understand the level of thought that you already have or capabilities and operational prowess in this space. I think Daniel, you posed a question, kind of how do you articulate from an XR perspective the technology and capabilities that you have. And I think it's a great point. I think for us, one, the track record, what are you doing that is uniquely able to address this? What have you seen in other areas, if you aren't already operating in this space, that has gleaned the ability to accelerate the training process? And then what is your understanding of this space and what an implementation process for your organization would look like in this space? How amenable is your technology to adapt into these spaces? An example of, we did, this was the first time in this space and it took us, and we were able to do this. That way we have better context on how we can facilitate that, the quick ability to do that, as the timeline isn't, never ending. So we want to make sure that we're able to operate in a short window, develop something that will be functional and ideally impactful in the process, to then implement for the pilot version. So the ability to understand that is going to be pivotal. Obviously, don't give us your secret sauce. I understand that. You can always also, as you're going through the application process, feel free to reach out to our team. We can help field those questions as you're going through the process, with you and your partner, or individually, however you want to. But I would say, again, go through it. Don't wait to the deadline. I know we have a lot of other startups when we do our broad call. They always do, and I get it. But again, start going through the process. It's not something that's going to take you months to do or days to do. But if you can get started, and then you can reach out to us with those questions. The more context we already have in the application fields, the will better help us assess and respond to your questions. Don't send us an email with your application fields filled out and say, hey, am I a good fit? Fill out the form, give us a specific question, and we'll try to answer that to our best ability. But yeah, we're here to help facilitate this. It's not something that should be scary. Ideally, we want to assess your intent and find some amazing people to collaborate with in this process. So hopefully that answers your question, David.
Great. And I think, Brian, you said that was Daniel that asked the question. One thing I'll highlight is that this last part of the application for uploaded materials. If it helps and you already have some type of, whether it be marketing materials or case studies of like other things that you've done with your technology, um, those might be appropriate to upload as well to better like articulate where you are with your technology or things that have been done to date. So you can use that. CDMOs may wish to upload kind of what their current training regimen looks like, or things that they've evaluated in the past in that section. But it is optional. Don't feel like you need to submit something, just if it helps easily support what you're trying to say. As far as sort of an example pilot activity, the team talked to a couple CDMOs and leading up to the launch of this, as well as a few XR companies. And this is just a single example, but the fill and finish stage for biopharmaceutical manufacturing is one that directly is affected by the technician performance, like how they conduct themselves and how well they follow the processes will drive kind of all the outcomes there of product sterility, yield, or just compliance across the board. So if you imagine what this might look like, we're talking about aseptic environments where we're looking at trying to minimize or eliminate any and all contamination type things. So the practices and how they are conducting themselves in that environment is extremely important. So XR simulations may be helpful to allow the technicians to practice and kind of go through those steps. Kind of, it's not just a simple process by any means. There may be many different capabilities that those technicians need to learn in order to properly perform and to do this last stage of the manufacturing. So some of the XR tools can help with that real-time feedback and really helping to set the knowledge and understanding of what it is those technicians are doing and why it matters. Additionally, not being there in the actual GMP space, where the manufacturing takes place, you can do different events or hazardous scenarios or deviations, et cetera, and how should people respond to those. So that is something these technologies can help is playing out of those scenarios. What outcomes may be for this example is really giving that sort of safe simulation space to allow them to repeat it over and over, which will help them kind of better perform and to do this consistently when it's needed. One key factor and metric that we're looking for or that we anticipate seeing is an acceleration for training timelines. So, that might be a really good outcome as well. And then when we're talking about these XR tools, one thing that's nice, as I mentioned, you don't need to have the technicians necessarily in the production space, maybe as often as you would in conventional trainings. And so it will make it easier to help scale up that training program and not rely so much on people that are trying to actively produce the biopharmaceutical products. And then also the portability of it. So if you're doing multiple sites down the road, hopefully you can apply and do this training kind of beyond that first pilot site. And I just want to stress, this was me kind of, I'm not an expert in the biopharmaceutical space. So that's what we have our BARDA subject matter experts and others that we rely on. But this was just one example I came up with, and we encourage you all to think about many different ways that the XR technologies can be brought to help you out, either in the CDMO space or if you're an XR service, giving an offering, what that might look like. So what makes a strong proposal? Brian kind of mentioned some of this already. We really want to understand from the XR company what it is about your specific technology, how that's going to be a benefit to this space. For the CDMO companies, we are asking that you can give us a clearly defined, whether problem statement or what your training barriers are, how you might be able to address that. Um, if you could fix just one thing, what is that main pain point, and how could you address it with these technologies, things of that nature. Um, for both, as you're submitting your applications, just think about the possible endpoints and what we may get out of this, and then how you'll be evaluating that. So the data collection and being able to validate these XR tools is critical to the success of this program. So we want to know that on the front end, kind of what are we going to be looking for to evaluate and understand the success. And then for the budget part of the proposal, we understand that right now you're applying as an individual. So you'll have a better understanding of what your needs may be. We're just asking for you to also think about your partner company and what their estimated costs or things may be as well. Not that you have to, but perhaps think about, if you have 300,000 as a funding limit for both, kind of what fraction. You can start kind of 50-50 thinking about it in mind, but try to be good faith or give good faith estimates for what the other companies may need to be able to accomplish this program. And that could help us when we're then partnering folks up as well, but it's not going to be the main factor by any means. So in summary, as I just said, we're offering up to 300,000 in non-dilutive funding. This is really to help advance both the XR technologies, but specifically we're looking at how can it make an impact for those CDMOs in the biopharmaceutical space. Awards are given to a partnership, to a company pair. So during this preliminary phase, they are individual applicants, and then all subsequent phases that you would be invited to continue through are done as a pair, as a partnership. And if we think back to kind of the overall aims and hopes of this project, it is to help create a more robust biopharmaceutical manufacturing workforce down the road for the future. How can we affect the training pipeline, help open that up, and make it easier for all of you to do your jobs? So that's sort of the overall goal. So think about that when you're framing your projects, and let us know how your proposal will really help, bring the industry or your company to the next level. So that's what we're looking for here. And kind of from all of us at the BTI team, and those that have come before and various other programs, we thank you. And if there's any questions, we will take those now. So I'm going to leave it on this slide if anyone needs to get our email contact, the URL there. The QR code should take you to the application page as well. But council, if you're able to maybe help raise questions, and we can start discussion there.
Yeah, sure. So we did have a question that was asked that I just wanted to bring up. How many CDMO XR pairs are you looking to fund? And I answered that in the chat, but I just wanted to talk about it as well. So currently we anticipate funding roughly 2 to 5 pairs, each pair receiving about 300,000. I will say that there are some like caveats is not quite the right word, but some kind of, I guess we could say caveats. We obviously, it kind of is going to depend on the pairs and what their full proposals look like. There might be during the refinement period, we determine that some might need more than 300,000, some might need less. We want to fund more, we want to fund less. And so that's again just a loose idea of what we are looking at regarding the numbers there. And then we had another question about, do you have a list of XR companies that you could share to see what technology is currently out there? That's a fair point. I don't know, David, if you want to try to answer that one, I'm also happy to, but whatever your preference.
Yeah. Sorry, it sounded like someone was going to
Yeah,
jump
I
in.
was just gonna jump in there,
Oh,
David. So I mean, I
Yeah.
think when it comes to like the list, I mean there's a variety of solutions out there. I think when it comes to the challenge, as David mentioned, from a CDMO perspective, it's understanding what that time to proficiency is, what the biggest lead time you have in the fill finish, the aseptic processes. We're not looking for, optimizing your EH&S training and doing, a metaverse version of that. The idea really is something that is specific to the biopharmaceutical manufacturing process, that frontline individual, something with that big time horizon. If you can articulate that pain point, what you currently do as far as your process, you obviously are currently having to do training proficiency qualification and maintenance for these professionals, as well as the overall process to maintain GMP. But if you can articulate what that looks like and not necessarily hone in on the technology, then we can do that with the matching process. If you have initial ideas, there are definitely a lot of solutions from just putting on the goggles and going in a virtual format to see what the scenario would look like, getting more in immersive experience to more tactical or more complex experiential training. So I would say it doesn't have to be one or the other, but there are options out there. Feel free to kind of peruse. We can send you some broad lists. I don't want to just give you a list of all the companies that are applying, because that also might kind of sway your approach, or also might kind of misconstrue some of the application information. Josh, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just one point to add to what you were saying. I think that we're also looking more towards the onboarding of new technicians who are untrained,
Right,
as opposed to the annual training of
right.
your current staff.
Exactly. Yeah. So the ones with the big horizon of proficiency training. So not the renewal of proficiencies and qualifications, or kind of the EH&S maintenance standards, but more the new workforce, as David mentioned early on, kind of that hiring process, being able to identify CDMOs that are in the active hiring pools. We obviously, we don't expect everybody to be hiring 40 people a month, but getting insight into that and identifying how best to assess these opportunities within that 12-month window was going to be very helpful for us to understand. So I saw, so Jamie asked about publish. So the idea is, the results will help articulate that. So the intent is it's not guaranteed or a de facto outcome of the process. There will be an assessment, both part of the project per project, as well as on our organizational side, both with MedTech Innovator, BioTools Innovator, and BARDA, to assess that. But yeah, that would be the idea, to help highlight the value of this, an unbiased assessment and impact of implementation of this technology in the biopharmaceutical workforce development. So that is the idea. Follow-up funding. So after the pilot. So again, the idea is, we're not going to maintain it for you. Hopefully this is a reassurance that this is going to help solve the scale problem that some of the CDMOs have articulated, both to us, BARDA, in our initial triaging and assessment of the space. So hopefully there's value in it for you. There's no requirement to maintain your engagement with your payer partner. If you already have an established relationship with your partner, collaborator on the XR side, that's fine. But it's not an expectation to do so. And ideally, the implementation and maintenance of this technology shouldn't be too detrimental. Obviously, there's modifications, customizations. We don't want to get too far down that pipe, but really to validate the implementation and maintenance or continuation is up to the organizations. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute your mic. You should be able to pop in.
I have a question. So we have a AR/XR platform for lab operations. And I saw one of the bullet points is that because this is for highly regulated industry, for CDMO, so you're looking for some platform that can already be at a regulated level. I don't have too much understanding in like the regulatory side for the training. Could you elaborate more on that front?
It's more for compliance for GMP standards for qualifications. So it's not necessarily on the hardware or software side to be regulated like through the FDA if you were think of a medical device. So it's not as rigorous as that, but there are kind of the training parameters, metrics, and standards to assess on a performance outcomes basis that is done manually, as opposed to using an XR or XR platform. So many of the organizations have their own process, and some have other parameters beyond the requirements to help optimize their organizational workflow, which is something to consider as part of the pilot, but we'll let that sort out by the pairs.
Yeah, and I'll just say, in addition to that, the CDMOs are already meeting these standards and have a full understanding of what it takes to stay in compliance with those criteria. So it's just something that would be worked through. But as Brian mentioned, it's not that we would need the XR platforms to be previously certified or reviewed or anything on the front end. Really, you're helping to facilitate the training and knowledge uptake to their technicians, who those technicians are then responsible for achieving that compliance once they're operating.
Got it. Super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. Do we have anything else in chat? Or we're clear there?
No, we're caught up in chat.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure there will be more questions as you start to crack into it. But again, there's still time. December 19th is the deadline. So again, don't wait to the last minute. Do feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions as you go through the process. We're happy to try to give you, as much response as we can. Obviously, we can't tell you if you're going to get funding or not. But again, we're here to help facilitate this process for you. We're really excited about this, as I mentioned from the outset. It's something that we feel like will really substantiate a lot of the work that you already are doing. And we're really excited to help kind of bring more light and visibility to the great work you're doing, but ideally bring this to a broader ecosystem and hopefully spread this across a variety of stakeholders that are currently not using these technologies. So again, thank you, everybody. Excited to hear from you. Don't hesitate to reach out. And again, really excited to kick this program off. I'll turn it over to David to have any other concluding remarks, but again, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Anything from the other BTI folks or Josh from the BARDA end you'd like to say before we would wrap up? All right. Well, thank you all for taking the time this afternoon. We very much look forward to reviewing your applications in the near future. So reach out if there are any questions or you have any concerns or something, xr@biotoolsinnovator.org is the email. So, all right. Well, have a great rest of your day, and thanks again for joining us this afternoon.
No, thank you guys.
You
Appreciate
too.
your time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.